No light for you.
No lights for you. And no light for any of you!
What is your problem?
Listen, I don't even want to talk about it. Hi, and welcome to another episode of PopFX, the show where we teach you some of the most popular digital effects from your favorite movies, TV shows, and video games. This is our final installment to our Harry Potter themed videos, and in fact, it comes from one of our top user requested effects. But hey, don't feel bad, because you can do it too. Just head over to our YouTube homepage, scroll down to the user submission box, type in your digital effect, and vote for others you want to see be made. It's that simple. This week, Dumbledore is giving YouTuber I'm Not Crazy Studios a gift, and teaching them how to use the Deluminator. After watching the Deluminator effect, I've actually come up with a few different ways to interact with the light source in a similar fashion. Number 1 is called the manual approach, number 2 is the masking approach, and number 3 is the purely digital approach. Let's start with number 1, the manual approach. When recording the scene using this method, I had Kyla in the foreground reading with a light visible above her in the shot. And when I said my line, I was actually standing next to the light switch out of the shot and manually turned it off.
No light for you.
In After Effects CS5, I first added a couple different flashes when I turned the light off to balance out that sudden camera lens adjustment. One is a simple white solid cut out as a large oval mat around the light and heavily feathered out that fades on and off over a few keyframes by adjusting the opacity. Underneath it, I duplicated the footage layer, cut it down to the same size as the white flash, changed the transfer mode to add, which gives it this bright, exposed look, and keyframed the opacity for the same amount. From there, I created the digital light flying off, and to do that, I created another new solid, making sure it's the same as the light by using the eyedropper, then went to Effect, Simulation, CC Particle World. Turned off all my grids and guides, went down to the producer, turned everything to 0, then to physics, changed the animation to direction axis, and then again turn the velocity to 0, gravity to 0, everything to 0, and finally go into the particle settings and change the look of it to lens convex. Now we have a single particle to play with, and to move it around I would control everything using the position X and Y sliders under the producer's settings. So I would keyframe the particle on the light at the beginning of the effect, move about 7 frames down because it's flying light, we want it to move fast, and reposition the light out of the shot in my direction. To clean up the look of the flying light, all you need to do is increase the birth rate so it looks like a fluid line, decrease the longevity, which scales down your light tail depending on how long you want it, increase the birth size, which makes the head larger, and decrease the death size, giving your light a small tail. To give this particle a more bright light look, go to Effect, Stylize Glow, increase the radius a bunch, and you can even duplicate the effect to increase the brightness even more. When I observe the collected light on the Deluminator here, I'm using a lens flare from the Optical Flares plugin by Video Copilot that is keyframed to increase and decrease in brightness. Honestly though, you could just use a glowing circle that ranges in size to get the job done. I just really like the way these flares look, and if you can afford it and make the investment, I highly recommend it. Now for number 2, the masking approach, and what I mean by this one is you're working with a light you don't have a lot of control over, like a traffic light for instance. I couldn't physically turn it off when I wanted. So what I did in editing was copy and paste over the flying light layer, change the solid settings to match the traffic light red, and positioned everything up to shoot over to my Deluminator and get absorbed. However, when I wanted the traffic light to stop working after I obviously sucked the light out of them, is go into my raw footage and find a place where the traffic light was off, duplicated the layer, right-clicked, then went to Time Freeze Frame. Then I went up to the rectangular masking tool and masked out a small area just around the lights and feathered it out a bit. And finally, number 3, the purely digital approach, and by that I mean there are no lights at all and we're creating everything in post. In fact, this is what the original scene looked like, completely overcast because it's monsoon season here in South Korea, so I had to go in and add a blue sky using a high-res picture, created a fake sun using again Video Copilot's optical flares. I know this version is not accurate to the films at all, so I'm not going to spend really any time on this. But here what I did for the light around my arm is create a glowing solid and use the pen tool to form it around my arm. When I was absorbing the light, I keyframed the mask path and opacity, moved forward a few frames, brought the opacity to 0, but also pushed the masking into a little ball to make it appear as though the light was shrinking in.
And no light for any of you!
Again, not exactly a true Deluminator method, but a way to start building something like the Patronus charm that I noticed a lot of you requested as well, and just to give you some food for thought. Come to Papa. Son of a... Well, that's it. Thanks for watching this week's episode of PopFX. I hope you enjoyed this last build for the Harry Potter themed magical month of July. If you haven't seen all of them yet and you liked this one, then be sure to check them out. Also, I want to let you guys know that I'm going to be taking a couple of weeks off from the show as Kyle and I have some vacation time here and we're going to be heading up to China for a bit. So, if you'd like to join us and see some of the stuff we're seeing, then hop on over and visit my kind of personal channel where I'll try to post some cool stuff when I can. Or you can always follow me on Twitter at GarrettFallon and say hello because I always like talking with you guys. As a bonus, I added a link here to visit the Harry Potter podcast on iTunes, and I recently watched these and they are wonderful if you are a Harry Potter fan or filmmaker alike. They have behind the scenes, deleted scenes, directing tips, editing tips, special effects builds, you name it, and it's all for free, so check it out. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a great couple of weeks, and I will see you next time.
Come on, Tom. Let's finish this the way we started it.
Together.